Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're
the Ghouls next door.
Yeah, and today we are going to talk to you, listeners, about Monsters of Love.
Yeah.
It's a show on MTV.
No.
Or VH1 or whatever it is, where monsters compete to love other monsters.
That would be a good show. But that's not what we're talking about. This is our Romance Gone Wrong series. And we today are talking about something more upbeat than the rest of what we've been doing.
Yeah, it's happy times where love is good and you want it to happen.
Yes.
Even if it comes with a little bit of murder. But, like, it's not murdering each other. It's murdering other people. So it's
or
okay.
murder for you either.
Yeah, it's cool.
Joe. Yeah, we're...
Don't hold that murder over my head. I
didn't ask for this murder. Yeah, we're getting some nice and positive feelings out there now that we've addressed more intense topics like rape and stalking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got that out of the way. So now let's talk about love.
Love.
Yeah, we're talking about specifically one of the most loved monsters with all the sexy, sexy romance that they have, which is vampires.
Yeah. They are the sexiest of the monsters, according to evidence that we found a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah, if people are falling in love with a monster, despite being told don't do that, it's the monster's probably a really sexy vampire. And it's like, yeah, they're a murderer, but also he's really hot.
Yeah.
Imagine what sex is like. I don't care that my friends are traumatized.
Yeah, it's totally chill. It's totally chill because we're all monsters here. And when you're all monsters here, you're like, yeah, hey, other monster.
Yeah.
Hey, you look nice. Come, let me touch your face. Romance.
Yeah, that's what romance is.
Yeah, but always ask consent before you murder.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I murder you? Usually they're going to say no, so.
Well, no, you ask the person you're murdering for consent.
Oh.
It's like, hey, is it totally chill if I, like, murder this dude and we eat him together? Yeah? All right, nice. Friday night, calendar, great.
Things got weird. I don't know if I'm invested in this relationship anymore.
I'd do anything for love.
No. No, but yeah, vampires are definitely one of the most erotic of the monsters, right?
Oh, for sure. And there's, like, actually a lot of history on that, which is really interesting, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was one of those people who, I wouldn't say, I wasn't a twihard. I won't say that. But...
I've never heard that phrase, but continue. Yeah. Yes.
Twihard. But when I was in high school, I did read Twilight. I had read it. My friend Olivia made me read it. She always had me read, like, the teen reads. Like, we read a whole series called Summer Boys. She made me read Pretty Little Liars.
What's that about? Tell me.
Boys in the Summer.
Boys in the Summer? Oh, my gosh.
Like girls that wear Abercrombie and Fitch.
No.
You know?
Yeah,
no?
but that was what the time was.
Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, she made me read Pretty Little Liars. She made me all those stuff. Because I was usually like the nerd that was reading like fantasy novels or crime or something weird.
Well, it's nice that she made you read all those stuff.
Yes, it's nice she made me read all those stuffs. Where are you bringing me? Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
I say it every time.
I just love you. It's like to make fun of you a little bit.
It's fine.
It's part of the relationship.
I hear myself do it all the time. Yeah, so I read it, and it was okay. And, but by the time the movies came out, I was like over it, because I was like older.
Oh,
and
so
I was
you
like,
read
it's
it
done.
Before it was cool.
Yeah, I hipstered
cool.
it. Yeah, it started my infatuation with like monster beings in romance. So like it's when I started to really like werewolves and vampires. So I had read Twilight. I watched Vampire Diaries a lot and True Blood and Being Human.
Yeah.
Bunch of it. You got werewolves, you got vampires in your show? Sign me up. Young Gabe is there for it. She likes the lore.
See, I had a weird, like, very opposite experience where I was like, nah. Like, I remember everyone liked Twilight, and I was like, I don't want to like everything that everyone else likes. And it also sounds stupid. Like, why is he sparkly? I don't get
that's
it.
dumb.
Like, I didn't like the Twilight vampires, and then I didn't have, like, other vampires to have opinions about.
Yeah.
So then, like, the same people who loved Twilight in, like, my town, I guess, also love True Blood. And I was just like, well, if you're the person who's telling me this is good, I straight up don't believe you.
Yeah.
I was like, your recommendation is trash. I know that, like, anything you like, I probably am not gonna like. And I'm probably not gonna watch that show now.
So you were ruined. You didn't even get a chance to fall in love.
And I had, like, very little interest in it. I guess, like, my big thing that I was obsessed with was, like, sci-fi. Robots and, like...
Yeah.
Or, like, social issues that were more blatant and less, like, metaphored. It was, like, Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddix, which is about third children and how people weren't allowed to have 3 kids. So, like, there was this whole underground society of third children that were trying to gain rights and, like, allowed to exist. And I was, like, obsessed with that series. I thought it was the best thing ever. Yeah, so I read the other kind of nerd books. Or I read, like, scary books, but they were, like, the Are You Afraid of the Dark or, like, Goosebumps.
Yeah.
But otherwise it was all, like, fantasy stuff that was, like, no one's real.
Yeah.
No one's a human. Humans are lame. We're all fairies, or we're all animals, or we're all this. And it was just like, we're all here. Cool. What's up?
Yeah, I read a lot of fairy lore. When I was first getting into vampires and stuff, I remember, like, reading or watching some of this stuff and my aunt getting, like, really upset about it.
Okay.
Because she was like, back in my day, vampires were sexy. They were, like, alluring, like Dracula. Like, she was talking about Dracula and how, like, you know, charming he was, and, like, he would seduce the woman, and it was dramatic, and it was, like, beautiful and all this stuff, and it wasn't these brooding teenagers.
It wasn't Sparkly Man?
It wasn't Sparkly Man. And I just remember her saying that and being like, it's like, but it is romantic. Like, I think it's just modern romantic now.
Yeah.
It's not the same level of creepy. It's a different kind of creepy now.
Yeah. Like, I watch you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm bad, but don't think about it.
You don't want to love me.
But do, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, facts. We tell you facts. All the facts. Yeah, facts. Still facts. About that spooky stuff. Yeah, spooky stuff.
Talking about vampires.
Yeah.
Vampires.
Sexy.
Sexy vampires.
Sucky.
Sucker. Yeah. Yeah, so we're talking about monsters of love. Mm-hmm. Monsters that represent this weird romantic narrative that's usually kind of, like, tragic and dangerous, which just makes it all the more sexy. Mm-hmm. And in horror movies specifically, romance was a part of what drove the plot and the narrative for a lot of them, like classic horror films.
Yeah.
So, like, when you're taking Bram Stoker's Dracula, Dracula is absolutely smitten with Mina. Uh-huh. So much so that he's, like, risking his life. He's risking people finding out who he is to get her. In John Carpenter's The Fly, we see a blossoming romance that survives some truly disgusting transformations. In Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire, that is absolutely rampant with emotions.
Yeah, they made the sensitive vampire, right? Like,
yeah.
It was like, you care about this person.
Yeah.
Who's not a person, but he is.
It's just all tragic and, like, woe is us. We're at the top of this evolutionary food chain and we're still moping around and sad.
Yeah.
And but then there was, like, we had this snag in horror films for a while where romance and intimacy were looked down upon and were actually, like, used as a tool, like a motive for murder. So, like, think Scream or Friday the 13th with that whole, like, don't have sex, you'll die situation. But now we're kind of back to this understanding that monsters can find love. Yeah. And one of the films that we're going to talk about today, romance continues on and is the primary focus, whereas the monstrous acts take up the background, not to be dwelled on.
That love is, like, the big thing. Like, we are monsters, yes, but, like, we love in a way that is so beautiful and profound that, like, that's the thing everyone should be paying attention to.
Yeah, it
like makes it more more like relatable. Yeah, that it's like we are just existing. It's totally cool. We just do what we need to do to survive. Yeah. And
then the other media that we're going to talk about does a pretty amazing job of juggling the romance and the lore of vampires and also the political metaphors that often accompany vampires.
Yeah.
In a really awesome way and sexy way.
For sure.
Which is like, it's so sexy that it is oftentimes like brushed off as just being like a romp. Like just like sex time show,
Yeah.
but
I mean, that's what I remember being told about it. I was like, I'm not gonna watch that. I just don't want to watch people have sex all the time. I have Game of
Exactly.
Thrones. Like, what?
Yeah,
How many
and it's
sex shows do I need to watch? I don't know. This is weird.
all of them.
But yeah, it's like, as someone who watched it very recently for the first time ever, I'm like, oh my God, this is so emotional. I'm like triggered almost at parts, and this is beautiful. Oh my God, I care so much.
Yeah,
And
but
it's like, there is sex, but that's not my focus right now.
exactly. It definitely, yeah, it juggles that in a way that a lot of fantasy, like romance novels will do.
Yeah.
Where like romance is kind of something that's like built gradually. And that's like a part of why it's so romantic and sexy. And so at the forefront is all of like the tragedy that's happening, which I think is really fun for the other thing we're talking about too, where their romance is so much in view.
Yeah.
And like the fact that they're monsters is kind of like just an added part to them.
Yeah, like, did you know? Hey, I'm a vampire.
Yeah.
Also, I like really love you and I need you in my life. And like, if you're not here, I'm dead. Like,
Yeah. World is a vampire. With romantic horror films revolving around monsters in love, or more importantly, on vampires in love, we connect with audiences who identify their own feelings of otherness and alienation in these characters. Vampires have always been about love and how it conquers mortality. When you have all of eternity to be with someone, do you still love them? Right? It always seems to have
that's
this...
real real. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's like, if I have to spend more than 10 years with you, do I want to do that?
Yeah. Or
You
like...
can do anything for 10 minutes. How long do you think you'll enjoy that?
Yeah.
Is this love? I don't know.
What is it? Yeah, exactly. And with vampire love, it always seems to have like a childish tone when we talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory is that when you're a vampire, you're essentially, superior. So you have like essentially like your battle sense is heightened. You're faster and you can smell things and sense stuff and fight good. But I also think that their emotions are heightened as well, which makes them incredibly sensitive, similar to like when you're a teenager and everything means everything. Everything is
High
so
school is
intense.
forever.
Yeah. You were like, this is your world. It's really small and everything is intense and extreme and it hurts. Everything hurts.
And it's forever.
Even the good emotions hurt.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's forever. Yeah. So I feel like vampires share that same emotional like degree. It's just like they also feel everything so strongly and it's so immediate that's why we get a lot of portrayals of vampires being teenagers or falling for teenagers. Because that's when like humans are in their prime of emotion, I feel like.
Yeah, and just like impulsiveness and lack of like restraint play very largely into like love in general. Like you see it in a lot of like Romeo and Juliet. It's like, you are young, you are in love, you will die for each other. That is how much you care for this guy you've known for 5 days. Like, you care.
Yeah.
That is forever, it is eternal, and it is never ending. That's how
Yes.
vampires feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's real intense. They live their forever existence that's never going to end, like they're going to die tomorrow.
Yeah. And it's like, it's either that
dead
or
already.
they're incredibly lethargic, which is also very teenagery. Of like, I don't care, I give up. Like,
I'm aloof.
incredibly like just emo about life. Like vampires are 100% that. Like Anne Rice's vampires are that. They're just the I give up, I'm done. And even in Only Lovers Left Alive, that's what Adam is. He's the Anne Rice vampire of like, what's the reason to keep going? That's the most teenage thing to ever say. That is someone
that's
who
really
doesn't
real.
know that there's more to live for.
And it's funny because it's like they should know there's more to live for, but I guess if you're living forever and you've seen so much that regular human life starts to look pretty mundane and like zombie-like.
Yeah.
You're just like, they always do the same stuff. Nothing ever changes. I am evidence to see that because I've been here 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Y'all suck.
Yeah.
Y'all don't make the best of your lives that you have. And they're fleeting in the end so early.
Yeah.
By
Exactly.
the time you figure anything out, you're dead. So,
Yeah.
cool.
And it's like, I'm stuck here and we haven't changed. I am stuck here on Earth while the people who are in power, the people who are in charge, are working at a snail's pace to like make this a better world and prove ultimately every time to not do that. And so, like, of course you're going to get disheartened and not want to do it anymore.
Because they don't live long enough to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
They're gone by then.
And vampires just have to sit there and be like, okay.
Yeah, because they can't just be, they're outnumbered. Mm-hmm. You know what they need to do? Mass uprising. Turn everyone.
No, then they wouldn't have a food supply.
Synthetic blood.
That's what Ethan
From
Hawke
Japan.
movie is about with all the
from Japan.
vampires.
Get
And they
that.
had like the people all like the last of the humans were just there to be siphoned from, and everyone was a vampire.
Yeah.
But something that I find interesting in these narratives is that these love interests that are vampires are blatant predators.
Mm-hmm.
When someone is repeatedly telling you that they are going to hurt you, that they've hurt people in the past, and that they have violent urges, well, maybe you should believe them.
Yeah, Oprah said, when a person tells you how they are, believe them.
Yeah. No one's going to know better than they do.
Yeah.
But in these stories, our young heroines always pursue them. Still.
Well, it's that idea that one, you believe that they can change,
Yeah, you can
that
fix
you
them.
can change
You're
them.
the person that can fix them.
but like vampirism is very different because like you can't fix that. There's no cure. Like emotionally, maybe a little bit, but like you die. And they keep going. They're like, bye, all right, that was a cool 100 years, like, or 50 years, whatever. You're gone now. I forget you 20 times from now.
Yeah, well, it's definitely like with vampires, when romance is brought into the subject, it's almost like instant that we brush off and ignore the fact that they're monsters. Like, or that they've murdered people, that like severe things have happened and that they've affected people in this negative way. It's completely disregarded. And then because it has to be in order to make way for romance. Because you can't love someone if you look them in the eye and know that they're a murderer. And in several different types of vampire romance media, we see that. So in Vampire Diaries, Elena falls for not one, but two vampires. Two brother vampires that are both bad.
That's weird.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
A little incestuous. Go ahead.
But they're both monsters, right? Stefan, who's like her original love interest, is literally called a ripper because he tears people apart. Not for nourishment, but for fun.
That sounds
is
nice.
the modern Angelus to Buffy's Angel, right?
Okay.
He is this epitome of like, he's just monster. He just like sees red and then destroys everything. And that's why he can't
like
do
most
any.
men. Yes.
That's why he can't. That's why he has like a vegetarian, in quotes, diet of like, he just eats like animals.
Because when he isn't, then he goes insane and kind of murders all out everybody.
Yeah, he kills everything. And then her other love interest, Damon. When we first encounter Damon, he kills and transforms Elena's best friend, Caroline.
Cool.
And one, I will say
that's nice to do for their love interest.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, he isn't a love interest for a long time, but I feel like they just completely forget how murderous he was when he first showed up into town. Like, he was just murdering for fun. He tries to, like, change Stefan back into a monster. They have a weird dynamic that's very supernaturally with the brothers, like Dean and Sam situation. Yeah. And like ends up with Damon. And it's supposed to be this like amazing love story that took forever to come through.
Yeah.
And there's so many things. There's this idea that like Elena makes Damon better, all the while ignoring the fact that he makes her worse.
Cool.
And essentially like she tries to leave like a million times and like she ends up staying, and it was mapped out as like this idea, like almost like it's her obligation to be with him because she is keeping him in line. She's the only one, which is all kinds of wrong. Yeah. Like that's not not your job.
That's that whole, it's a woman's job to save somebody instead of it's someone's job to save themselves.
Yeah. Go check out some Ariana Grande tweets if you want to figure out
real.
why that's
a
not
narrative that bothers me very much.
Yeah, I absolutely lost it when that was happening.
You cannot save somebody who does not wish to be saved.
Yeah, and even if he does want to be saved, it's still not your like, if it's negatively affecting you, if you're being bad, if like things are affecting you in that way, then it's not worth it. And that trope is very common in vampire human romance when, that like he's a monster and you're fixing him. But there's always that friend who's like the sane one, who's like, they're literally just one hungry day away from making you a snack because they've done so. Or in like the case of Vampire Diaries, they have like a switch that's their humanity switch or whatever. It's like in their head that at any point they can just essentially become Angelus of Angel. Like, whereas Angel has like his soul and it gets taken away, he becomes Angelus. They do that to themselves. And it just... So
dissociation.
Yeah. It's just at some point they give themselves the ability to turn off all emotions and feeling like a person, empathy, and then they can go and kill people. And then they wake up if they turn the switch back on, and then they feel all of the damage of what they've done, and then they're sad.
That's not worth it. You might as well just not remember it then.
Exactly. Which is the problem, because then you're really hella murderous.
Yeah, because then like you still did it.
Yeah.
It'd be different if it was like you don't remember it, so it's like, all right, well, I didn't do it.
Yeah, but it's it's all kinds of messed up. But in Buffy, she falls in love nearly instantly with Angel. Mm-hmm. And Angelus,
was she glamored at any point or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're fated to be like, and that's kind of what it's kind of shown to be. But Angelus is also one of the most horrific vampires out there. He's notorious for tormenting the later crazy vampire Drusilla by killing off her entire family simply because she was beautiful and pure.
Cool.
He just needed to destroy her.
Yeah.
This monster gets his soul back because he messed with the wrong gypsy, which makes him Angel, not Angelus, when he has the soul in there. He's brooding. He remembers all the bad things he did. He essentially becomes all those vampires in Vampire Diaries. But the love between Buffy and Angel is doomed from the start because Angel can never feel true happiness or his soul will be gone.
Yeah.
And then
So he just has to be a brooding, miserable time all the time.
Because otherwise then he becomes Angelus. When he becomes Angelus again, he torments Buffy pretty bad. Not as bad as he's supposedly done in the past. Like, he's really lukewarm in comparison to the stories that we hear later.
Yeah.
But, he just, like, he torments her. And then as soon as Angel gets his soul back, Buffy's like, oh, okay, forget all about that. Remember when you can turn on a dime? Just like, God forbid, all this. And there's also the whole idea that his true happiness comes after they have sex. And it's like, is that the only time you feel true happiness, Angel? Like, any other time that you're, like, in love with Buffy doesn't count?
No.
That's stupid.
Yeah, no, it's pretty...
He should just never be around her. That's so dumb. Yeah. Anyway, this torture romance does make for a fun spinoff, but yikes. Yeah. Cool. Another fun aspect to Buffy, though, is the romance between two vampires. So Spike and Drusilla. Mm-hmm. They're the baddies, but they're absolutely in love.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Spike cares so deeply for Drusilla. And even though they fight like teenagers because of adolescent emotions, they're kind of sweet in their evil love. Mm-hmm. And he absolutely, he's just like a teenager about it. And he throws little tantrums and he's jealous of Angelus.
For a minute and they're like,
yeah.
You will make me a love potion.
Yeah. But they're both evil. They both love each other and they love who they are as vampires. Yeah. Which is different. It's so different. So to me, it reminds me of Only a Lover's Left Alive. It's like we love each other as the monsters.
Remember when we ate that homeless man on a bench?
Yeah.
It was so romantic.
Exactly. Yeah. And then later in this section, we're going to be talking about True Blood, which we'll have a lot more to say, which I essentially got Kat a little addicted to.
Yeah, definitely. I really liked it. It was a great show. I was very surprised because, as I said, like, the people who recommended True Blood to me like 5 years or 10 years ago were like, not great. So I was like, I'm not going to watch that. It looks dumb.
Yeah. And then, so that is chock full of vampire romance drama and even some lessons in racism. So who knew? No one knew about True Blood. But it's just
deep, man.
These teen dream dramas about falling in love with vampires are just rampant with just problems. Don't do it. They're monsters.
Yeah. Let's learn. Well, I'll learn you about some vampires. Vampires in movies and stuff like that. In books, whatever. All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
or uses metaphors for societal issues. So you see in True Blood a lot the like essence of social issues that surround like homophobia and racism and all that other stuff is like rights. And there's that whole thing where he's like, oh, when are you guys going to get married? It's like, oh, if it was legal, like, you know, like there's a lot of societal issues being discussed throughout that show. Yeah. And that's just something that's kind of universal throughout the theme of monsters, but especially vampires. So for example, F.W. Morales' 1922 silent movie, Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, was an anti-immigration or anti-Jewish propaganda piece in the opinions of many people. So monsters in general end up, maybe even if not on purpose, now looking back, we're like, oh yeah, that's about that horrible thing that was going on then. Cool.
Yeah.
I understand now.
Monsters tend to serve that purpose. They're usually, it's not just, this is a monster. It's usually like, okay, what time period did this film exist? And which group of people were we alienating and making out to be the monster?
Yeah. But it's also interesting, I feel like. So, fun fact of my life as a history major, and my big favorite was historiography. So it's like, why were things written the way that they were in the time period that they were written? And why, so specifically in relation to horror, like, why was this scary then?
Yeah.
So you get the period of time where like Dracula's being written, or about, and then Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like the monster stories that are like kind of being written about in these time periods where science was changing, and basically they're starting to really look at the brain and the way that the brain operates. Yeah. So there was this big fear around cerebral, let me make sure I say it right, cerebral localization, and basically the essence of free will or the human soul, and how when they were doing experiments on the brain, it eliminated that idea. Like you couldn't really believe that the humans had souls and could control their actions because the brain was telling you have a left brain and a right brain. One controls impulse control and the other side does your smarts time. So Nosferatu or Dracula ended up being considered really scary because of the fact that one, as vampires, we see that they're very impulse driven. They really react and they live passionately, and they're going against all the other things that like Christian society at the time was saying was repressive. So you were told you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to wait till marriage to have sex. You're not supposed to be hypersexual. You're supposed to have sex with your husband. That's it. You die. Yeah. And basically that you weren't supposed to be gluttonous. You weren't supposed to live fast, die young kind of thing.
Bad girls do it well.
So the anti-idea of that, where vampires, you see that that's their whole thing is they're live fast, never die, but you know they're acting like they're gonna die tomorrow. Yeah, they're
acting like they know they can't die tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. There's no consequences. Do sex with whatever we want and eat whatever we want and do whatever we want. We're living. Yeah, man, let's go.
Try me.
Yeah, come on. Bring that whatever steak, whatever the only thing that can kill me.
Come at me, bruh.
Come at me. So that's how they're living. And that was at the time specifically, where it was like Victorian era. They were like, nah, guys, don't do that. That's terrible. That's sinful. God will smite you. All the impulses of your human soul, you can fight. Like you can have individuality. You can be a good person, a virtuous soul. Your soul will be saved if you live this way. And contrast to what vampires are saying. But all the science that they were doing around then kind of showed that people don't always really have control of their impulses. It's very much like signals and triggers and all that fun stuff is what makes you do the things that you do. And you'll see a lot of that when you're reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. You're seeing like the movie versions of it that there's this whole lack of control over yourself. You are in a zombie-like state. You are being mind controlled. You are being glamored, I guess. Yeah. And that like you don't really have control of your impulses, but like the thing that's attracting you is you can't even help it, and that's what's scary. So now we ask, why are they sexy? I'm gonna tell you. So essentially the reason in folklore that vampires were always portrayed as like sexy things, it's very funny. Gonna warn you now. Fun fact, when they would think people were vampires, like they suspected vampires existed, they were like, all right, we're gonna dig up this guy's grave. Totally gonna find him in there. It's gonna be cool. But he's a vampire times. Almost most of the times when they would exhume the dead body, it would have an erection. So they would assume that That's a thing that I read, and I've decided it's true.
That's crazy.
So that the corpse
where's
would
the
have an
blood- how's the
erection,
blood
and that
going
like
there?
further created the idea that vampires were obsessed with sex. Specifically male vampires, that they were like insatiable. They would go have sex with everything, and that's where also like where when a widow, their husband recently died, if they became pregnant, they were always just like, oh yeah, that's their dead husband. They came back. They're a vampire now. Totally fine.
Yeah, because there's no possible way that a woman can have sex with someone who isn't her husband. So the only answer is that he came back from the dead.
Yeah, it was like totally cool. So in a modern lens, you look back at that and you're like, she had sex with the neighbor down the lane.
Yeah, she had sex with her friend.
Now she's pregnant, but totally vampire husband.
Yep,
It's totally
had
fine.
to be.
But yeah, we have a more modern lens where we're like, oh wait, I have some logic. I can kind of tell what's going on here. Then they did not. They preferred to be like, oh no, she's still pure. It's totally fine, guys. It was just a vampire husband. So there was the whole idea that like when they came back, the first thing that they were going to do was have sex with people. So that just continued the narrative that they were these sexy beasts that would come back, and that was their whole thing.
Yeah.
It was never consensual because back then women could not give consent to sex. It was only
just
for
happening to
procreation.
them. Yeah.
You could never want to do that.
Yeah.
And they would also say that they would use it as a reason that nuns got pregnant, or like people who were generally celibate or chaste, like who were societally expected to not have sex ever. If they became pregnant, then it was vampires.
Duh.
They couldn't have done that themselves.
Because it wouldn't be a human man. Like a human
No.
man would not abuse or take her virtue. A human man wouldn't do that. Preposterous.
And another reason that generally, I guess you can explain like the teenager end that you were saying. So it's actually true that a lot of times people were assumed to be vampires when it was people who had everything to live for who died, like unexpectedly. So essentially, the people who came back as vampires were always young, vigorous, and vital people who died in the prime of their life. Mysterious deaths where maybe they were murdered, maybe they committed suicide, or died in childbirth. But it was people who seemed like they had everything to live for, who seemed that their deaths were untimely and unnatural, and who were expected to resist death, to cling to the world by any means possible. So I guess that's also like the idea that they would come back because they had so much left to live for. They're vampires now. They got to live that rest of that life / forever. In folklore, when vampires came back, they desperately sought the pleasures of life. They were robbed from them, specifically food and sex. So unlike what we usually see is where they can't eat human food, in a lot of folklore, they were like unbelievably gluttonous. They would eat you out of house and home. They didn't have to just eat blood or drink blood, rather, or eat people. They definitely had to do that for actual sustenance because by regular food, they were never satisfied. So they would eat you out of house and home, and they would also have sex with your wife.
Scandal.
The things you don't want.
What hedonistic creatures. They have to be vampires. They can't be real. Humans aren't
exactly.
that way.
Yeah.
We suffer.
But yeah, vampires were just like a token excuse for pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like if you were like, oh, why is that lady pregnant suddenly? Oh, it must have been that vampire I done heard about old-timey times. And also like female vampires were very much described as like succubus or like sirens. So like they were unbelievably beautiful. Men have no control over their actions. They could just fall victim to these beautiful women who were coercing them into sex. They couldn't have done that from their free will.
No.
But it was always told that like female vampires specifically were like the most gorgeous monsters to ever kill you. Real good.
Queen of the damned. Well, it's like, think about it. Like, one, women aren't allowed to enjoy sex. So if there's a woman out there who's enjoying sex, right?
Yep.
One, that man is caught off guard because that's crazy. There's no
like,
way.
What?
So she has to be a monster, and she's taking me against my will because now I'm not with my wife, who I just do sex upon. I'm gonna have sex
I can't
with a
control
woman.
myself.
My penis just wants it, and that's it.
Yeah, so
Don't be mad.
you're totally on par because what I wrote down was it ties back to the cultural expectation that women aren't supposed to enjoy sex or are supposed to be celibate and like aren't supposed to be like about it.
God forbid.
Besides sex, folklore vampires lusted for food, any kind of food and drink. As I said, they were called the Hungry Dead. So instead of the Walking Dead, they were the Hungry Dead. They were like, I'm gonna eat all your stuff.
Yeah, just very gluttonous.
Sorry, not sorry, man.
They're like the 7 deadly sins wrapped up in a creature.
Yeah, you can honestly like clearly see that in a very like religious society or like I guess more so a conservative society that all the things you're trying to tell people not to do, the vampires openly do. It's like they're living, but we don't want that because that's bad. That'll corrupt your soul that we are not totally sure that you even have because science. And so we'll see a lot in Only Lovers Left Alive of humans being called zombies, which is very in line with the Victorian era ideas that humans don't have control over their actions. They're machines. They're zombies. They are not free from the idea of like having a soul.
Yeah.
They don't have one of those. They're just machines doing monotonous life stuff, and then they die, and their lives are just such a waste.
It's tragic.
Yeah. We got no control of our actions. What's that?
Films. Yeah, films. Yeah, films. We watch some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff. And all that spooky stuff.
So we watch stuff.
As always.
Watch something about vampires.
Yeah.
So we watched True Blood, which is a
Such a
series on HBO that took place from 2008 to 2014. Pretty good. It was pretty scandalous because of all the sex that's happening, which is based off of the Sookie Stackhouse novels by Charlaine Harris. So let me tell you what it's about. Telepathic waitress Sookie Stackhouse encounters a strange new supernatural world where she meets the mysterious Bill, a southern Louisiana gentleman, and a vampire.
Yeah.
That was it. That's good.
It's ridiculous that his name is Bill. I agree. When she like laughed maniacally at that, she was like, "Your name's Bill."
I thought it would be Armand.
You're like something fancy. I don't know. You live forever.
Bill.
Your name's Bill.
Yeah, this show does a really great job of showing that vampires can be used to convey bigger topics.
Yeah.
So homophobia, religion, racism in the South. There's the phrase coming out of the coffin that's used. The existence of the Fellowship of the Sun shows this. Like it's rampant with these things like signs that say God hates fangs, which is literally one letter away from a slur happening. And that's the thing about it that I found really interesting is that even with the fact that vampires exist and they're the new thing to hate, they're the new other.
Oh, there's still underlying levels of racism and homophobia throughout anyway.
Yeah.
It's just more.
Yeah. In season 1, you really emphasize all these themes. And Tara, who is the best friend who is looking at things logically and actually has like both of the black characters in this, Tara and Lafayette, have really intense traumatic experiences with vampires where they suffer from PTSD. Whereas our white characters are in love and romanticized and like, are fawning over. And despite the fact that their friends are like, I have been tortured. I cannot sleep. I have panic attacks because of the existence of these monsters and you want to marry it. Like what? Even though all that's happening, right? Tara still has to like talk about how racism still exists. Yeah. Like she has this whole tirade about her and Jason, like when she's pretending that she's dating him. Yeah. And she's just like, you think with vampires, like we would be over this. And it's like, you always have that idea that like if aliens showed up, we'd have a new thing to hate. And so maybe people would finally unite and like target this common enemy that's so very clearly another. But they're still there. They're still hating on people.
Just
on
another
regular
thing to
people.
hate.
Yeah. Now we just have another one. Yeah. We can hate on immigrants and like people of other colors at the same time. And people who are different genders, all of that. We can do it. We're multifaceted like that as a people.
Yeah, we're so great at hating stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. And we, like the other shows that I mentioned, we are given a vampire human romance. Yep. We're given that a lot, honestly. Sookie has a romance with like every kind of creature. She has it with a vampire, with potentially kind of in a way shapeshifter. She kind of has werewolf.
She's like
love,
in her like late 20s, and she's
guy.
Still very much like a child when it comes to romance. Mm-hmm. She's just like, I love everything except do I? I don't know. I thought I loved him. Now I love him. Yeah. What's up? What is love?
The reason why we can love her, though, as a vampire, of someone who is choosing to have emotions like Vampire Bill is that she even though she's an adult, and so it's more appropriate that they're having a relationship, she is still very young. She's a virgin, essentially. I believe she is. I think it is talked about.
Yeah, no, she said that she was because of the trauma of the molestation when she was younger.
Exactly. She's very virtuous. And also the fact that she's telepathic and can hear exactly what men are up to. But it's like she is very virginal and pure and simple and childlike, which makes her susceptible to a vampire that's looking for that. Like, if you're living for years and years, centuries and centuries, you're going to yearn for something that's untouched.
Yeah.
Because that's new. That's like unique. It's different.
Yeah, I remember seeing that there was a section of why vampires really liked virgins, which I didn't fully because I was like, ugh. But it's like definitely a thing where it's like that's the one thing after all this years of awfulness. This is the untouched innocence that is still here. Beauty in the world.
I think the best line, the best representation of the vampires liking virgins quote would be from What We Do in the Shadows, which is a great vampire film. And one person said, Deacon, who's like the more like nerdier one, is like, I think we drink virgin blood because it sounds cool. But Vladislav says, I think of it like this. If you're going to eat a sandwich, would you just enjoy it more if you knew no one had effed it? Essentially. It's like, okay, I get it.
That's fair, yeah.
You don't want to eat something
would enjoy that sandwich a little bit more.
Yeah, but still, it's not like anyone's having sex with your blood. It's a little different.
It's definitely, yeah, what's funny is like you're thinking of it in the sense that's like you're not stealing their virginity, you're eating them. So
yeah. Exactly.
I can definitely see the difference there.
Yes, there's definitely a difference.
It's like vampires are very sexual, but that's not the entire reason that they're like, yeah, that sounds great. It's like, nah, it's just like, it's cool that no one else is.
Yeah. Essentially, to a vampire, everything is old.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have something new. Yeah. And we also watched another movie called Only Lovers Left Alive from 2013.
Which I like significantly more than I expected to. But Only Lovers Left Alive summary. Artistic, sophisticated, and centuries old, two vampire lovers ponder their ultimate place in modern society. Yeah, it was a really good movie. It was very artsy.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, look at this happening.
It was super emotional. It's starring Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston. So very pointy faced, beautiful people. As they are. What it's about. Yeah. It's like, it's so good. Like, and to me, I felt very strongly that like Tilda was the best person to pick for that. She was just so great at it. Like, if I'm gonna pick a centuries-old vampire that's just like enjoying life and like making the most of being a vampire, it's gonna be her. She looks so great as a vampire.
She just has like this intensity about her. Just like when you're looking at her, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
You're intriguing. I can't really explain why. If you told me you were actually a vampire, yeah, I'd probably believe you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I think, and what I loved about this was that it was more about emotions and like humanity even after not being a human. Like there's no on-screen violence. It all happens off-screen.
Yeah.
And there's no sense of like damnation or like the struggle that we see in other things. And the fact that I also love that they're both vampires. Because then we skip over that whole like,
I'm
should we
corrupting
do
you,
this?
Or like I'm trying to change you. It's like, no, we're both just us, man. And we're gonna be in love now.
And we live forever. We were married hundreds of years ago. We were really cute and young, and now we're even older. And they're also like yin and yang in a way. So like she's always dressed in white. He's always dressed in black. She's like this like literature buff who loves books. He loves music. And they love each other for how different that they are.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely like an opposites attract, but like total acceptance of each other. And it's like they are very much like she's definitely the one that brings the light to the situation and like helps him feel better and feel like his life that is forever has purpose and that he should not kill himself. Yeah. And he's like, I'm sad. Yeah. And he writes some songs for these zombies who won't appreciate it.
Yeah. He's very brooding. He's the classic Anne Rice brooding vampire. Oh, yeah. There's like a line where he says like he feels like it's this, like the sand is at the bottom of the hourglass. Yeah. And she says, then it's time to flip it over.
Yeah.
Which is like, that encompasses their entire relationship,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Is that he's like, the glass is almost empty. And she's like, well, it's half full. Let's fill it back up.
Yeah.
Or, oh, we
Makes
have
them
more to
believe and
drink.
stuff.
Yeah. You know,
so
and
sweet.
it's absolutely cute and sweet.
Yeah.
And I love them so much. It was such a pure, amazing relationship. Like, especially because, so we have these two vampires who are married, but they're living in different places. So he lives in Detroit and she lives in Tangier. So they live in totally opposite places right now. Because, like, if you're a vampire and you're married,
Yeah, forever, might as well.
yeah, you can just go off and do things and then you come back. Like, and that's like the story that she essentially tells, is that they tend to be together and then they part and then they come back together. Like, inevitably, they're always going to come back
Yeah, they're
together.
always going to be together. It's essential to them.
Yeah, and they don't feed on people.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting blood from a hospital, or
because the humans of the day are tainted. They have these illnesses and are gross. You don't want to eat them because you'll get sick and your teeth will fall out and you'll get all disgusting.
Yeah, so their immortality is in jeopardy, which is another reason why he's probably feeling so sad. So their names are Adam and Eve, which is cute.
Yeah.
Adam is your depressed vampire who essentially wants to commit suicide. Yeah. He's lived long enough. He's tired. He feels like everything that could be done has been done. He's bored with people. They call humans zombies. Mm-hmm. He has indulged. I really love that she blames like his, essentially like his emotional state, like his sensitivity on, Byron and Shelley, and when she says some of those French a-holes he used to hang out with, which is like amazing. Like, you think
there's
about
a lot of just like literature and like lore and just like smart stuff that like if you like know it, you're like, ooh, that's so cool.
Yes.
And if you don't, then it's like totally fine. But like it's cool. Like you have all the little hints and name drops and I guess like literature references. We're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, literature and history references.
You're like, totally right. Oh my god, that's so cool.
It's essentially, for me, I felt like it's a literature nerd's wet dream. That's what it felt like to me. I definitely got very excited. Like so Adam goes to a hospital to get the blood. Every time the doctor there refers to him as a different doctor, and it's always like a spooky sci-fi doctor. So he's Dr. Caligari, he's Dr. Jekyll. Like every single time we have this new person. I love it. I freaked out every single time.
There's like, wait, that's what he's saying. He's saying the stuff.
There's the character of, I think it's Marlowe. Yeah, Marlowe, who is essentially the person who ghost wrote for Shakespeare. And he says, like, he wishes he had known Adam when he was writing Hamlet because he was the perfect character for that, which is true. He's very Hamlet-esque in a way that he feels like he is owed more to life than anyone else. And it was just super exciting. And then there's also, like, references to history as well. And when you think about like the futility of like humanity, right? So the fact that they're vampires and they have to live in the shadows, they can't directly change the course of the world. So they have to wait for the rest of the world to catch up. Yeah. Which is something we'll talk about next week for another Monsters episode, is that there's a character that's like trying to, like, the world is trying to catch up with her. Yeah. And so, like, there's a great line where Eve mentions how Adam loves his scientists, and he raves about what has happened to them because of the zombies. So he's like, Pythagoras slaughtered, Galileo imprisoned, Copernicus ridiculed, poor old Newton pushed into secrecy and alchemy, Tesla destroyed, his beautiful possibilities completely ignored, and they're still whining about Darwin. Yeah. Right? And it's just like that. The zombies don't deserve these scientists and these once-in-a-lifetime genius humans because they won't appreciate them. They're not. Yeah, they're not seeing the big acceptable. Picture. Yeah, they're not susceptible to like expanding their minds, and so we're stuck. And so if you're centuries old and you're just waiting for people to finally figure it out, that's gonna wear on you. And I thought that was amazing. Yeah, I think making the romance just really pure and sweet, making it about two vampires instead of humans, and putting all the violence in the back allowed us to make this more about humanity and like history and like our progress. It allowed it to be so much more than just like a stereotypical vampire film.
Oh, 100%. It was so nice. It was like, you kind of forgot that they were vampires for a minute. You're just like, oh, you live forever. Cool. So you have this like really unique and great view of society that no one else has. Like that was my favorite episode of True Blood, was when he was like the town hall and he was like telling everybody about the Civil War and he's talking about like how he was there and what it was like and the emotions and the way stuff was. It's like, that's every historian's dream.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Exactly. And like, if you could find someone who lived forever and ask them and use them to make the world a better place, like we could. But in all of these instances, we're not doing that.
Oh, humans don't listen.
Exactly.
We think that's supernatural witchcraft evil times that we
Yes.
don't want to go anywhere near.
Burn it.
Yeah.
Burn it. Yeah.
We want to murder everything we should love.
Yeah. Adam and Eve, for me, made the idea of if you were to be a vampire and be in love forever more romantic
Yeah,
than
like, kinda cool.
anything else.
Be like about it.
As someone who's like indulged as a guilty pleasure in that kind of media where it's vampires living a human and the human's always tasked with that question of like, should I become a vampire to be with my love forever? I've always been like, no. like it's
See,
cute
I'm like,
to think
I'm
about.
like, I get it. I'd like to live forever and like know stuff.
Yeah.
Or like have this like higher, like the thing that would suck is that like the other ones are not nice. Like they're bad. Like there's no like Bills who like have this still like keen sense of humanity embedded still in them. It's like crazy people who are like mass murderers and whatever.
It's still a struggle. Yeah. Like, for example, and what I like about Eve is something that I liked about a character in Twilight.
Was it the nerdy one who like kept going to college?
Yeah. So Jasper is a character who's a side character who would go to college and he has like 1 million degrees and he just like loved learning. And I remember reading, and it's literally just like a paragraph in one of the books. And I was just like, I want to know him more. I want to know that more, because that's like such a genius way to spend your time, as opposed to being this, like, I'm going to go to college or high school forever. Like, that's dumb. That you don't have to, unless you look like a prepubescent boy forever.
Like you could definitely pull off a college student easily and then just go to college forever.
You forge documents because you're a vampire. You're already doing that. Just forge them so you say that you're 18. Right? And that's what I feel like. If you're going to be alive forever, that's your opportunity to like learn and expand. And that's what Eve is doing. Like Eve reads and she's like infatuated with the growing world and with knowledge and literature. And he also is, Adam as well, with like the expansion of what music can be, right?
Yeah.
And they're so like, their little intricacies is just really beautiful. And that was like, that's what vampires should be about.
Yeah.
If you have the chance to live forever, it doesn't have to be about those little minute things. That's such a human perspective. You are too old to think about the things that we think about.
Yeah.
You're too, like, you don't have to worry about dying tomorrow. So you're going to think differently.
Time.
Yeah.
To like live and know stuff and like just be super interesting and cool, man.
Yeah, you can adapt. You can like evolve from where we are.
And like they think that they have it, like they have it in all the shows.
Yeah.
They're like, we're so much better. And
And
it's like,
they're
you're
not.
doing all the same stuff.
They're just being
like
big
extra.
teenagers. Yeah. It's so dumb.
Go get smart, man.
Yeah.
You can.
I
I don't got
believe in
time. You got time.
Love prevails.
Go do it, man.
Films. Yeah, films. Yeah, films. We watch some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff. And all that spooky stuff.
All right. So if you like it, it's I'm coming out of the coffin and I'm doing just fine.
Gotta get out because I want it all.
Exactly. It's coming out of my coffin if you like it. If
Cool.
you don't like it, it's my vampire husband got me pregnant.
Yeah, totally not John down the road.
Nope, not
it
the
was my
milkman.
vampire husband.
It was him. He came back to life because I can't have sex with anything else. Duh.
Yeah, dig up his
Come
body.
on.
He's got an erection. Sure does. He's thinking of me. It's totally cool, guys.
He just goes back into his coffin and lays down.
Nope, and
With his erection.
it's ready to go. That vampire husband of mine.
That's how it works. Yeah. So for the topic of monsters of love, which are vampires, how you feeling?
Coming out of my coffin. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about it.
Yeah.
I want to live forever. I want to learn all this stuff. I bet you at one point in my hundreds of years, my brain would work real good. That'd be super smart times. And also, because you'd be a vampire, like, everything just works better. You're like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be all human, like,
You become super hot.
I'm already super hot.
Yeah.
But I'd be, like, extra.
Everything would work. You could walk
I could
downstairs
run,
normal.
I could go on steps normal, my
Yeah.
lungs would function.
Yeah.
I could probably, like, jump off of stuff.
You wouldn't
and,
even
like,
need
it
your
wouldn't
lungs.
hurt.
You don't breathe.
It'd be so great. Guys, hey, vampires.
Yeah. Hey,
You
vampires,
exist?
don't do it.
I mean, I still want my soul.
I like the sun is a problem for me. For me, it's definitely coming out of my coffin.
Mm-hmm.
And I am doing just fine. Because
Just don't eat anybody. It's totally fine. You're a vegetarian now. You
I would
you
figure
can't
it
be
out.
doing that
I
later.
would hate to have to eat animals. I would just drink blood. You can
Yeah.
make like cool like drinks and some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd make it interesting. I want to eat people though. And
You
like
just go to a hospital and take some blood. It's really cool.
yeah, I would love to use the opportunity to learn more and to grow. And I understand that it'd probably be really depressing at times because I'm already depressed at what the world does. And if I knew that it's limited like that forever, like if I were like already now reading history books, I get sad.
Oh, 100%.
Thinking about like
I'm always depressed reading
Yeah.
about like the awful stuff that's happened / still is happening. It's
exactly.
Like, we always take 2 steps forward and then like 5 steps back. That's just what history is.
Yeah, whenever
that's sad.
I read a book and I'm like, wow, we are still there. We haven't evolved in any way. I get super, super sad. So I guess if I was also like a vampire and I actually lived through that, I could see myself becoming an Adam in some ways.
Yeah.
But you just need an Eve. You need someone to turn your hourglass over, you know? Or you could become the vampires like in Twilight and some of them have cool superpowers.
I think it'd be totally dope if you like still like had some of your humanity. Yeah. I think I could still be a good person and be a vampire.
Yeah.
Live forever just reading books.
It's also like a lazy person's dream because
Yeah,
you're not
it's my
like
dream.
the ever inching, you know, mortality is not looming over you. Like death is not around the corner. So you don't feel any sense of urgency. Like when you're like, oh, I'll get to that tomorrow, you probably can because you're going to be in the prime.
I just watch a lot of TV and listen to a lot of music and like draw and make video games and like not leave my house. And it would be so great.
So for the media, for Only Lovers Left Alive and True Blood.
Coming out of my coffin. 100%. It was just so great. I really enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to because I was always very anti-vampire.
Yeah.
I like dug the whole situation. Now
Welcome
I'm like,
to
vampires
my
are so cool. Can we just all be them now? Like, for it.
Yeah, you find the lore and the love of vampires. It caught me earlier. I'm glad that you're wrapped up in it. I really, really loved Only Lovers Left Alive. I didn't think I would. And I'm really so happy I did it.
And we watched a lot of movies that like we thought would be relevant that like kind of weren't, and I really enjoyed those too. Like I was just like really satisfied with this little tail end of our romance gone wrong series. I think hopefully everyone else will really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think it's such an interesting take on vampires. Like we've talked Dracula, and it's about time that we talk about vampires, but to do it in this way is very interesting.
Oh yeah, because it's not just like drink your blood or suck your blood or whatever. It's like, oh my god, but love though.
Let's talk about
feelings. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's what we got for you. That's the monster of love, vampires. So don't get married.
You'll live forever and then not have kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing that made me sad.
You can't have kids.
Didn't even touch upon it. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to have babies. You'd be cool, but I'd be sad.
You become a maker and you make somebody a vampire and then they're your children.
I guess you're adopting. People. You get a Jessica.
Yeah.
Who's the hottest vampire that ever was.
Yeah, she seems real fun. I'm excited to see her story unfold.
All right. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
What are you doing?
I'm recording the podcast.
On the radio?
In my radio station. Hello.
Hey, Giz Mom.